Some stories exist to enlighten the mind, some to temporarily inspire hope or passion. But there is one set of writings meant to chill you to the bone, or make you question what is actually possible. These stories are called Creepypasta. Before we start tonight's Halloween special, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and bell notification, for if you don't, the demons that run free on All Hallows Eve will find you and turn your face into a mask. It was 2011 when I got into special effects makeup. I was 12 years old and the show Face Off had just premiered, starting my lifelong obsession. Before this, I focused on sculpting. Had been for years, starting at the age of 6, taking after my world-renowned mother. Not that I had a choice. It's not that I didn't like sculpting. It is a passion, but there was always some aspect of persuasion on my mother's part. But I have to admit, I do have the gift. I just felt as though it was a small part of a greater whole of what I was destined to do. And when the show came out, I saw the terrifyingly heinous creatures sculpted from clay and casted to molds, then lined with silicone. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to make masks. Price-wise, the supplies were fairly affordable, even for a 12-year-old, especially if you buy in bulk. By season 2, I had a gallery of masks that decorated the walls of my room. Heads of creatures you wouldn't find in your worst nightmares. It came to me as natural as sculpting, probably because that's one of the main aspects of it, but inspiration consumed me at all times, just as it did with simply sculpting. Never was I without an idea, a face to create, and execution was never difficult. I can't remember a single mistake I've ever made, but there was one occasion where my muse eluded me. I was getting a little old for trick-or-treating, so I wanted my last year to be really special. Imagine my surprise to find myself with a blank sketch pad after hours of staring down into the white abyss, unable to find the image in my head that would soon be my masterpiece. That night I went to bed, defeated and depressed, as Halloween was only a week away, and I was on the verge of my first failure, and I wasn't prepared to face it. As I drifted off to nothingness, an image started to haunt my mind's peripheral. I felt a presence, but did not know its whereabouts. Then, materializing from the darkness of my unconsciousness, was a face that chilled my soul to its core. My void became confined, and this entity became my spiteful god, paralyzing me with overwhelming fear. To look at it was painful. The things it made me feel felt wrong, yet I couldn't look away. The longer I stared made no difference in the fear that I felt. It never subsided. An eternity passed before waking up in my bed, covered in urine and sweat. Of course, I pissed myself, though a small price to pay for inspiration. 6 days was plenty to bring the evil to life, and when I gazed upon my creation, a familiar shiver ran down my spine, followed by the feeling of dread. It was perfect. Tonight was going to be one to remember, after saving the faces of the people as they opened their doors to fear itself, momentarily entering into a realm of pure horror, before filling my bag with candy and closing the door, going on to live their lives with its image in mind. As I approached my first door, my heart pounded as I imagined what their face would look like as they laid eyes upon my vision's creation. I rang the bell and heard footsteps making their way towards the door. It opened slowly, and through the mask my eyes locked with those of a woman, graying from age. Her reaction surprised me, as she had none. A glimpse of her smiling face dropped to a dull stare, as if her face was frozen from an instant stroke. I then witnessed her eyes fade to white, before she collapsed to the floor, like that of a doll falling from a toy chest. As she laid in the threshold, I relished in the fact that my mask could cause a person to faint, even if she was old. I grabbed my deserved portion of candy from the spilled pile on the concrete and backed away into the darkness as a group of kids approached, guided by an adult. The screams let me know that the old woman would be tended to, so I made my way to the next house. Mr. Matthews was the neighborhood jogger. He was in his 30s and in good health, so he should be a good candidate to get the reaction I was looking for. As I approached the house, I saw a display set up in his driveway, as he sat with his two young boys who were dressed like Woody and Buzz from Toy Story. I hear what sounds to be the start of an awkward Halloween group greeting as I cross the yard and enter the light, where I'm met with instant silence. Without lifting a muscle in his cheek, Mr. Matthews' neck went limp and dropped his head back, hanging it over the back of the lawn chair. The two toddlers flopped forward, falling to the ground, as if Andy had walked into the room. No dramatic jump of fear. No shriek that turned into a whimper. Just unconscious. Although I wanted a terrified reaction, I had created something which instilled such fear that it paralyzed its onlooker into unconsciousness. This was even more intriguing. I grabbed a handful from the bowl in the man's lap and made my way down the street, satisfied with my results. I continued my rounds of the neighborhood. Mrs. Jones never stood a chance, but the real surprise was that her yappy chihuahua didn't either. Within milliseconds of seeing my mask, it dropped to the floor next to Mrs. Jones, falling silent for the first time in its life. Old, young, human or not, no one could look at my creation in the face without falling victim to its terror. I continued receiving the same results until my bag became uncomfortable to carry. My mask had proven itself, and I had more than enough candy, so I called it a night. I returned to my room where I removed the mask, seeing it from the outside once again causing me to shake off the chills it forced down my spine. After I placed it in its home on the wall, with the rest of the heads from my imagination, I laid back on my bed of candy and drifted to sleep. The next morning I woke up to my mother shaking me. She frantically explained that she was worried because of something that happened the night before that was simply unexplainable. She said that multiple people had been found in their doorways, having suffered massive heart attacks. So many that the police were looking into foul play. As my mother hugged me, I gazed at the mask over her shoulder, wondering what would happen if she were to turn and gaze upon its terror on her way out. Would she too drop dead? I'd never know as she let me go and made her way to the door, ignoring my mask as she normally did. Although I felt horrible accepting responsibilities for the deaths, an equal portion of my psyche felt proud of the accomplishment, even still. I placed it in an old shoebox wrapped in a t-shirt, and now as an adult, it's kept in a safe, upright as if wrapped around a face. It's rare that I put in the combination to stare down true horror and suffer those chills, but occasionally, it does deserve to be admired and feared. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the Halloween special. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and bell notification, and most importantly, follow me on Twitter so you can stay up to date on story narrations and my new video segment coming out, In the Writer's Room with Dr. Heinous, where you can assist me in writing a creepypasta story like this and later hear me narrate our creation. Plus, I think I'm kind of funny. Tune in next week for the continuation of the creepypasta series, The Midnight Paper, and also for another Dr. Heinous original titled, My Dad Bioengineered Me to Capture His Runaway Pets, which you don't want to miss. So until next time, see ya.